Welcome back to our series on understanding family estrangement. If you're just joining us, this is video 3 of our 13-part series where we're delving into the complexities of why families become estranged. So far, we've covered divorce, we've covered parental alienation, and we've talked about how these commonly lead to adult children cutting off. Family communication can span from highly interactive, very loud, demanding, lots of upfront conflicts, and then we can have those that sweep things under the rug. There can be dynamics where there's such high dysfunction, there's a scapegoat, someone to blame all the family problems on. There could be abuse. It's a complex system, lots of variables. But we know one thing that the research tells us. We know from the research that one of the common threads that exacerbates vulnerabilities to estrangement is ineffective communication patterns. Family members get hurt and they leave the scene. Let's get started. Here are 5 points you should know regarding ineffective communication patterns and estrangement. Number 1, parental impact on the lives of their kids. So naturally, adults, parents set the stage for how members communicate. So if the individual parents don't know how to communicate to each other or to others, they're going to pass that on to their kids, right? Okay, so if they're highly charged all the time or totally inactive in their ability to communicate, this is going to create a system of where this is learned and passed on. I want to read you a quote that comes from the book called I Thought We'd Never Speak Again, The Road from Estrangement to Reconciliation, written by Davis. Okay. Estrangements often start because we lack the communication skills to prevent them. We don't know how to apologize, listen, or cool off and talk again tomorrow. Instead, harsh words get set in stone. Small slights are whipped up into unforgivable injuries. Jealousies fester. Misunderstandings are never discussed or resolved. An ultimatum made in anger comes due. Now, I think this is extremely significant as a quote because, who doesn't understand that? Who doesn't understand when things aren't resolved? So these ineffective communication patterns that kids can see at the hands of their parents, this is a real thing. And naturally, it's not rocket science, guys. When kids are involved in this family system, it is hard on them. And number 2 is practice of invalidating. So the inability to validate, to say, hey, I hear you, I get where you're coming from, is like, it just is very significant because what it is saying, I'm supportive of you, I see you. Children who grow up in homes that are invalidated, they feel unseen and unheard, not precisely a nourishing environment for them. The third thing we want to talk about is conflict, fighting, arguing, stonewalling. So John Gottman, you want to find out about him because he's a researcher, and what he came up with was 4 things that if you have them, you're very likely to get divorced. But they don't all just apply to divorce. They apply to human interactions, and they are contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling. When these are present and kids are around it, they feel the unpredictable nature of the home. And it's like they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like living in a war zone. Not a very friendly environment for a child. And number 4 is holding grudges. Okay, so now when we're not resolving, it really creates a problem. It's these hurts that aren't taken care of. No one's talking about them. They're just kind of like waiting for them to disappear into the atmosphere. When individuals lack the skill to resolve issues, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And number 5 is disparate values. So this is more about like, hey, we have different values now I don't believe that I need to do this. I don't believe that what you believe is the same. And this can often happen in adolescence when kids are like saying, you know, when they were really young, they used to look to their parents and they idolized them. And then as they get older, they go into the teen years and they're like, you know what, Mom and Dad, I don't believe like you believe. I believe this way. And parents are like, hold on a minute, I am not accepting you. You have to believe my way or the highway. There's a lot of black and white thinking. My goodness, talk about a difficult environment for adult children and parents to find common ground. This is a really tough topic, and don't think for a minute that I don't understand how hard it is for all parties. Family is a difficult thing. Lots of different people living under the same roof, trying to find their way and getting along, and maybe the parents don't have the skills because they didn't grow up with learning the skills, and then the children get the fallout. This doesn't excuse parents, but hey, no one is perfect, and some parents, knowing that, they compensate to a degree to get to a place where, hey, I don't want to be like my parents. They may overdo certain things and then communicate like, hey, anything goes. Anything you want to say, anything you want to do is okay. I mean, it is a recipe. It can be a sure and certain disaster. And number 5 is disparate values. So this is when you just don't see eye to eye. There's no way that everybody is going to agree on anything. And it likely happens in adolescence when children come out of that stage of where they idolize and they're willing to listen and they see you as, you know, this figure that's infallible. Children will begin to question. And when they do question and they begin to individuate, it's likely that they're going to have different values than their parents. And when this happens, there's a choice. There's a choice of whether the validating of seeing the child, the adolescent, and what they believe, or there's going to be a complete gaslighting, meaning, oh, no, that's not what you should believe in. You don't know what you're talking about. Whatever is happening for that child, that adolescent, they receive a message, my parents aren't supporting me. Or if the parents are overcompensating and letting them get away with everything, and it's just like whatever they believe, whatever they want to do, and there's no parameters, they live in a world where they don't learn consequences, and it could be another messy thing. So effective communication patterns, knowing how to deal with things such as having disparate values. How will you communicate during those times? What will you do when there's a disagreement of deep things like what you believe? When this is all going on and there's a heightened state, whether it's from families that are very active and loud or whatever, or those that are very quiet, when there isn't this connection that people are accepted even when they do have different values, they can feel judged and experience shame. So look, parenting is like, I believe, the hardest job in the world. No one does it perfectly, and I believe for the most part no one goes in it wanting to harm their kids. Okay? When there's disparate values, it can add a real problem into the relationship and the dynamic. And these kids often want nothing to do with their family because they don't feel seen and heard. It's like trying to fit puzzle pieces together when they just don't match. And when these differences persist without resolution, it can bring a sense of not belonging. Stay tuned for the next video where we dive deeper into disparate values and how that contributes to family estrangement. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe so you can get the next one in your feed automatically. We'll see you in the next video.